Namaste, everyone. Thanks for being here and watching my video. My name is Rachel Bouzaid, and I am a Vedic counselor who loves using Vedic astrology and thinks it's an amazing tool to uncover your karma, your dharma, and your life's potential. And I help people uncover their obstacles in life and figure out how to not be defined by them, but to be guided by them. And today I'm really excited because we are going to be looking at the country of Palestine's Vedic birth chart. Now, country birth charts are always a little bit more tricky because the birth time of a country's birth time can be a bit subjective or hard to find. And Palestine might be one of the most controversial, hard to find a consensus, right, on its birthplace, its birth time, and its birth date. But today we are going to use one that I think really works and that other astrologers have used. And yeah, let's get started. Here we have Celestine's birth chart as November 15th, 1988 at 1:40 a.m. in Jerusalem. I use Parashara's Light. This software does not have Palestine as a country, so I'll just leave it at that. And this is the chart that I think is the most accurate. So when we are looking straight off the bat at this chart, remember, this is a Vedic birth chart using Jyotish or Vedic astrology. This is not Western astrology. And it goes deeper because we're using the calendar of the moon, and we can go into star constellations of signs, not just the signs and the planets. So we're going to be looking at multiple different things. I'm going to be leaving things out. It's impossible to cover Palestine completely in one of these videos, but let's just look at its birth chart. So right away, this is the first house for a country that represents the country's identity. It's how it is seen by others. So for Palestine, it is in Virgo. It is in Uttara Falguni, which is ruled by the sun. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so we're merging those two energies. That's its personality. Uttara Falguni is all about social contracts and upholding social commitments. It's responsible, it's dutiful, it's extremely giving. It spans Leo and Virgo, so it has a lot of just giving and generosity, caring so much about relationships, family, friends. It's of service. It's Virgo. But right away, we see Venus is right here on its ascendant, fully debilitated, pretty much. It's almost at 26 degrees. Venus is fully debilitated in 27 degrees of Virgo in Chitra Nakshatra. And so, right, when we're looking at a country, we're not going to look at it as it's not completely like a person's birth chart. So Venus being debilitated on Palestine's ascendant just shows you straight off the bat that it is going to have difficulties with the way it is seen by the world, by others. It is going to struggle expressing itself. Um, so that right away pulled me in when I saw this chart for Palestine because right, Palestine has really struggled with the way it is seen by the rest of the world. First of all, Then, if we look at, so you always want to follow the ruler. So, right, I said Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. And when we look at where Mercury is, it's right here in the second house for a country. That's the country's resources, its wealth, its currency, its debt. So it's very similar to a normal birth chart that way. Mercury is here in Libra. That's number 7. That's what number 7 represents, conjunct with the sun. First of all, Mercury and Venus are exchanging signs because Mercury is in Libra, ruled by Venus, and Venus is in Virgo, ruled by Mercury. So even though Venus is debilitated right there on the ascendant, this is called a parivartana, an exchange of signs. So what ends up happening is I wouldn't say the debilitation is fully canceled out ever, but it's giving so much grace to that debilitation. So, in a lot of ways, Mercury is now going to act as if it's in its own sign of Virgo here on the ascendant, exalted. And Venus is going to act a lot like it's in its own sign of Libra, which is really interesting because, right, when you think of Palestine, regardless where you stand on this politically, Palestine isn't completely seen in a negative light by the world. Um, and if I put my opinion too much out there, Palestine has an amazing, actually, resilience and way of expressing their story and having their story heard by the world compared to a lot of other countries that are experiencing the atrocities and the inhumane treatment and colonization that Palestine has suffered, right? Like Sudan is having this at the same time, but they are not getting coverage or the same amount, right? Yemen is another example, right? But people know about Palestine and their truth and their story has gotten a global audience. That's where I think the Parivartana is coming in. Now, the sun is here. The sun is debilitated as well when it's in Libra. That's very interesting. The second house, is your resources, it's your wealth. I would say Palestine struggles greatly with their resources and their currency and their wealth as it has been taken from them. So the sun is fully debilitated in Swati Nakshatra. So when it starts getting into Vishaka, it's starting to come out of that debilitation, but it's still debilitated. And there's no Parivartana here or saving grace. Also, the second house is your voice. And, you know, I would say that Palestinians probably feel that their voice is not, is a bit debilitated, right? They haven't had the best leaders or the best people to expose their story, right? Whereas, like South Africa, they had Nelson Mandela, and a lot of people say Palestine's biggest problem is that they haven't had a Nelson Mandela, right? A real champion, a real voice for their story, for their liberation. Okay. Pluto is also here. So there's just a lot going on in terms of resources and the second house, um, what further for Palestine. Pluto is going to show us where we see control, issues of control, power, manipulation, betrayal. Okay. So that's interesting as well because that's in here in the same house. But okay, another thing that's just so telling that in why this chart really works is the fourth house. For a country's birth chart, and the fourth house is right here, okay? I'm pointing to it with my mouse. The fourth house represents the land, okay? The homeland, the soil, and the people. Saturn is here. Saturn is a planet of deep karma. The whole chart is karma, but Saturn is the heavy planet where your lessons will be slow and harder. I don't know a better word for it. Not only is Saturn here, it's with Uranus and Neptune, and it's in Sagittarius in the nakshatra Mula. Mula is such a difficult nakshatra that I personally have a lot of experience with. Mula is ruled by Ketu, the south karmic node of detaching you from the material, detaching you from what you are too attached with. Saturn in Mula in its fourth house is everything in this chart. Palestine's struggle is its homeland, fighting for its land, fighting for its soil, fighting for its people. Neptune and Uranus. Uranus is also in Mula. Uranus is the planet, outer planet of sudden change, radical ideas. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, and it is a very mystical planet but it also is illusions and enmeshment. There are so many illusions around what their home is. Saturn and Neptune, which we are actually experiencing in real time, are conjunct right now in Pisces, transit-wise. Saturn is the truth and Neptune are illusions. So there's this push-pull for Palestine's own country's chart with their homeland. What's true and what's an illusion? Okay. So, wow. Saturn is going to give a slow, deep karma around uprooting the truth of Palestine's home. This is their deepest karma. That's really, really tough, right? And we're seeing it. This is very validated, right? The moon for Palestine is here in the fifth house in Capricorn in Uttara Ashada. I find this interesting because Uttara Ashada, especially in Capricorn, it actually spans two signs. It spans Sagittarius and Capricorn. But when it's in Capricorn, it is like hardworking, it is disciplined. Uttara Ashada is preceded by the universal gods that are here to restore, Dharma, the Dharmic way, the truthful way, the right way. So the moon is their emotions. The fifth house in a country's chart is going to be more about having fun, entertainment. And you know what's so interesting about this for me? It's also the birth rate in a country's chart. Palestine has a high birth rate. The moon here, for me, is showing the Palestinians' attachment or emotional ties to the love and passion that it has for its country. I think that's what makes Palestine so prevalent today is their resilience, Uttara Ashada, and their ability to not give up. They are so perseverant. Um, it's astounding. Really, it is, given how much they've been through and how they're still fighting for their freedom. That's how I see this moon placement for them. Um, yeah. Another thing when we go back to the fourth house is we do want to look at aspects, and I haven't really gotten to that yet on this chart, but right away, K2 is hitting that fourth house as well with its fifth aspect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. K2 is the planet of loss, of separation. So it's loss and it's hitting Saturn. Two malefics. Loss of the homeland. It also will aspect the eighth house here on its ninth aspect. So let's keep looking. Rahu, which is going to be a really big deal, this Rahu K2 axis. It's in Aquarius, in Shatabisha Nakshatra, in the sixth house for a country that can be the enemies, your competitors. It can also be your military, your armed forces, labor. And Rahu is what you're trying to master this life. That's what it represents in the chart. It's trying to master sixth house things, the day-to-day, their competition, their enemies. And it's in Shatabisha, which is a very intense nakshatra, also ruled by Rahu. And I have to say, Rahu does well in Aquarius because Rahu is the second ruler after Saturn of Aquarius, and it's in its own nakshatras. Rahu rules Shatabisha. So that's really interesting. Rahu also does really well in the sixth house because as a malefic, the sixth house does really well with malefics, especially Rahu, because it gives you that ability to overcome the obstacles, to overcome the challenges of the sixth house. K2 is here in the 12th house of hidden enemies in Leo and Purva Phalange. So it shows that there is already a little bit of a mastery with Purva Phalange with it, which is very self-expressive, very, it's very committed to relationships, it has a very good karma with marriage and luxury. It's, ruled by Venus and it's in Leo. So it's a very self-expressive, you see a lot of actors and actresses with Purva Phalange connections. So the other thing that just really came out when you look at this chart is Mars here in the seventh house. For a country's chart, that's going to be their alliances with other countries. The sixth and the seventh house for countries, there's a bit of a debate between astrologers as which one you which house you look at for war. Some people really look at the seventh house for war. Some look at the sixth or both. So it can also mean war. Well, what does Palestine have in its seventh house? Mars. The planet of conflict. It's the planet of courage, of action. It's going to show how you act when you need to be courageous. It's in Pisces, which is not a fighter sign. It's a loving, very esoteric, mystical sign. And it's in Uttara Bhadrapada, which is ruled by Saturn. It's symbolized by the back legs of the funeral cot, which is, representative of endings. Because, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's the closing sign. It's the ending sign. You're releasing what you need to release when you get to Pisces so that you can be reborn again in Aries. Mars in Uttara Bhadrapada in Pisces is very complicated. Mars wants to act, but it's in Saturn's nakshatra, and Saturn is restriction. There is a push-pull here for Palestine's action and courage. But Mars, Uttara Bhadrapada is also the sustainer energy because it's Saturn, whereas Purva Bhadrapada, which comes right before Uttara Bhadrapada in Pisces, is a lot more explosive and a lot more, in some ways, intense, whereas Uttara Bhadrapada is trying to sustain and take that energy slowly with discipline. So, right, Palestine, like I said, has been here for the long game. They have not given up on their struggle, no matter what they have gone through. So that really checks out for me, right? Mars being there shows that they're going to have a lot of karma with war, with their alliances. When you look at the neighbors on a country's chart, you look at the third house. It's in Scorpio, ruled by Mars. Neighbors are not friendly. It's right here in the chart. And then the eighth house, their house of, death and rebirth, is ruled by Mars. And it's affected by their alliances, by other countries, by their neighbors. All checking out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mars is also aspecting its 10th house of reputation. The way it's seen, its leader, right? They've had like one real leader, Yasser Arafat. Pretty controversial guy even for Palestinians. Like, did he help them or did he hurt them? And after the Oslo Accords, right? Not so helpful. Mars is opposing Venus. It is aspecting its ascendant as well. So Mars is giving a lot of courage here. A lot of disciplined courage. It's sustained. It has longevity. But it's giving conflict. The eighth aspect, which is the harshest, is right here on its Mercury, its Sun, and its Pluto in resources. Ouch. Saturn is also directly aspecting the 10th house of reputation and its leader. That's 2 malefics already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rahu, another malefic, is aspecting the 10th house of reputation. That is 3 malefics on the 10th house. Not great. And they have not had a successful leader to help their liberation. And they've had issues with their reputation. It's really checking out. It's interesting that the BP, where their blessings lie, is in the 11th house of the collective in Cancer. Like, the collective is its blessing. Our sensitivity, our care for their struggle is their blessing. Jupiter, let's look at Jupiter. the benefic planet of grace, of optimism, of growth, the guru. Jupiter here in the ninth house is in retrograde. So its power is going more inward than it is outwardly expressed. It's in Taurus and it's in Kritika. Jupiter expands whatever it's in. It's expanding Kritika, which is the nakshatra of purification, purifying from the negativity. I would say Palestine is definitely been trying to purify from negative forces for a very long time. And this is the house of foreigners, of foreign trade, the legal system, international, right? It could be the international court, the international law. It has a deep karma with that. Jupiter is aspecting with its fifth aspect, its first house. Yay. It's helping so much with the way they are seen. It's also aspecting the third house, its neighbors, and it's aspecting 9 from itself. So it's aspecting the fifth house with the moon. Jupiter and the moon is a great combination for leadership, for emotional wisdom, for optimism. Sometimes I'm just amazed by how optimistic Palestinians still are. So that checks out. So we've looked a little bit at the birth chart. And now I want to start talking about transits and how we can see that in Palestine's chart with Vedic astrology. So talking about current transits right now. Currently, Rahu is in Aquarius and Ketu is in Leo. Okay? We call that, so when planets, when Rahu and Ketu are on your natal Rahu and Ketu, we call that a karmic return. It's like the ultimate chiropractic adjustment, getting your life back to where it needs to be if you're kind of off the path. It can be just super life-changing. And it's very out of your control. It's very, very karmic. These are the 2 karmic notes. So I wanted to pull up Palestine's karmic return, which is happening exactly on Palestine's Rahu natal, like their birth charts, Rahu and Ketu placement on December 21st, 2025. That is 1 month from today. I'm recording this right now and it's November 21st, my time. Wow. We're right now, right? No one knows if Palestine's going to survive this genocide. Will Palestine be still standing in a month? I really wanted to do this video now because I'm coming to you all with optimism because of this transit. Because Palestine is going through its karmic return, and the reason I'm saying it's going to be exact on December 21st, okay, is because, do you see this? It's at 17 degrees, 17, 19. You see that? On the 21st, it'll be 1722, but if I altered it by a few hours, it'll be 1719 exact on December 21st. Now, it doesn't mean that at that exact time, like something extremely karmic is going to happen. It could be very close to that time or after, but there is something very significant about to happen to Palestine. The reason I have hope, so I'm back on Palestine's birth chart here. When October 7th happened, when we look at transits, the Mahadasha, right now, Palestine is in its Rahu Mahadasha. Rahu is a very long Mahadasha, and right, it's focusing on its sixth house, which for Palestine is its enemies. It can also, right, be war. It's been in this Mahadasha since 2008. Okay. And before that, it was Mars, which, right, in the seventh house of alliances and war as well. So this has not been easy, but it's also really telling, right? This is in the chart. So on October 7th, 2023, Palestine was in its Rahu moon. Okay. Rahu is here in the sixth. Moon is here in the fifth. Well, when we look at that, it's activating those two houses. But the moon is 12 houses away from Rahu. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 in Vedic astrology, the 12th house is the final house of endings, of loss, of death. October 7th was during that period for Palestine. And I have that pulled up as well. And there was a lot of things going on that day. Mars and K2 were conjunct in its second house of resources. Ouch. Very tight as well. 2 degrees away from each other. Rahu is in Ashwini. Jupiter, all of this was in its 8th house. So 8th house of death. Saturn was on top of its natal Rahu. See there, I aligned it up to the same houses. It was in Shatabisha as well. So it was an intense day. The transits reveal that as well. But now, on March 29th, 2025, it shifted from Rahu Moon to Rahu Mars. So now the 6th house here, right? I don't know if you guys can see. And the 7th house here where Mars is focused on. War, enemies, alliances, conflict. The reason why I think this karmic return is going to lead to some sort of relief for Palestine. And yes, that could be like a literal death, but I believe in the rebirth because April 17th of 2026, Palestine moves into its Jupiter period. Jupiter Mahadasha periods are for abundance, learning, relief. It's in its 9th house of international law, the judicial system. And yes, it's in retrograde, which isn't ideal, but it's in Kritika, which is about purifying the negativity. I am really hopeful about this. Another thing, when we look at transits, we look at the progression chart for the year. Palestine is literally in an identity karmic return. Look at this. Rahu and Ketu are sitting in its 1-7 axis. Loss of alliances, loss and war, and there's a huge mastery here focus on who is Palestine? What is its identity? The Munta here, MUN, is focused on international law and the judicial system, what's right and what's wrong. Venus is here also conjunct in its own sign, giving grace. The sun is debilitated, so making this really a bit complicated. Super interesting. When we move this to next year, it moves to a focus on obstacles, competition, but it's going to move the Rahu Ketu axis to the 9th and the 3rd house. Honestly, next year doesn't look easy either. Venus is debilitated in the house of the homeland, Venus in Virgo. The Mantha ruler, Mars, because it's Scorpio, is with Ketu, showing another very karmic year. But I think that something is about to really happen for Palestine that needs to happen karmically. So I hope you all find that interesting as well. I know it could be a little bit tough to follow, but I'm doing my best to show you all. The thing about Palestine, is that there are a million things we could look at. We could look at the start of the Great Revolt. We could look at the first Intifada. We could look, honestly, Israel's chart. It's the day before the Nakba, so the transits are pretty much the same. There's the Oslo Accords. So if there's anything in particular any of you would like me to focus on, let me know. When we look at the first Intifada, for instance, on December 9th, 1987, it's so telling because Ketu and Rahu are on its first 7th axis here. There's a loss of identity. Ketu is loss on the first house. It's identity itself. And Rahu is here. Jupiter is also its death planet because death planets are the 2nd and 7th house. Jupiter is here in the alliance house, and Rahu is here, showing that there's going to be super karmic events with war and alliances. Mars and Pluto are conjunct in its resources house. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. When we look at October 7th, the recent event in 2023, like I said, there was Mars K2 here, which is always kind of a deadly combination. Mars is war and conflict, K2 is separation. And right, Palestine's death planets are Mars, Jupiter, because Jupiter rules Pisces, Venus, Sun, and Mercury, because those are the houses. So on October 7th, you had, Mars, one of its death planets with K2 here. We have Mercury and Sun, its death planets on its ascendant. And we have Jupiter here in the house of death, and Jupiter is in retrograde in Barney, which is actually known for like birth, the birthing process. So literally like painful death, rebirth, transformation, nakshatra. And it's in the 8th house with Rahu. Neptune is here. illusions around who its friends are. There's no like easy transit for Palestine, but I really feel like if there's going to be a relief happening, inshallah, it's going to be this Jupiter period that's coming next year. It has a huge karmic return. And if you want, we can look at it this way. So the inside of this is Palestine's birth chart, and the outside is December 21st, where the planets are. Okay. Rahu and Ketu are on it, on its exact placements in the houses of enemies. But what's also crazy about this day, this transit, Venus, Sun, Mars, and Moon are also transiting Palestine's fourth house of homeland, of land, of soil, of the people. Venus is in Mula. Sagittarius in transits, especially Mula, is usually a time of war. It's, remember, Mula is uprooting. It's the uprooting nakshatra. It uproots you. I think that this will be very painful karmic return of uprooting. But I really do have faith that there's a rebirth out of it. The moon is in Uttara Ashada that day. Mars is in Mula. Mars is of action, of up. So it's, and all of this, you guys, is on its natal Saturn. This is a very, very karmic time. Saturn is transiting its natal Mars in Purva Bhadrapada. Not quite the same nakshatra, but that is also a very intense nakshatra, and that's going to be on the House of Alliances. So there's a lot more coming for Palestine. This isn't over. Yeah. When we look at Israel, let's look at Israel that day. Interesting that Israel is also a Virgo ascendant or a Virgo rising, isn't it? K2 is going to be on Israel's natal Mars. That's usually a trigger in transits. Jupiter is going to be on its Venus in the house of reputation. So that'll be interesting. Will that be a good thing for Israel? Like, because it's in Purnarvasu, restoring the light. Maybe it's also in retrograde. Also, it's on its natal Venus here in Ardra. Ardra is a very transformative nakshatra of the storm. All of this is also, so because they're the same ascendant, the transits are happening in their same houses. So that's really interesting. So it's hard kind of to say like which one is going to turn out better. Jupiter is also here in its fourth house in Mula, and it's in retrograde. Mula, no matter what, is going to be tough nakshatra. Doesn't matter what planet. Jupiter is a benefic, but it also expands what it's in. So it's expanding Mula for Israel in its homeland house in the fourth house, and it's retrograde, which sometimes cancels out the exaltation and acts more debilitated. So Venus, Sun, Mars, and Moon are also going to be on its house of homeland. This is going to be really interesting. For its life periods, Israel is in Rahu. Jupiter period, Rahu is in the house of death here. The eighth house also represents secrets, disgrace, betrayal, other people's money, right? Money through others, debts for countries. And it's in Jupiter. So when we look at that, it's really also, they're also in the same boat. The eighth house and the fourth house are being illuminated, and both of them have Mula Nakshatra right now, or in their birth charts. Let's see, so Jupiter and Rahu are how many houses away from each other? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The ninth house represents, yeah, it's a good house, for prosperity, spirituality, higher learning in a birth chart. But for a country, it's more about international law, international trade, the court systems, right? Israel is being tried in the International Criminal Court right now. Netanyahu is being tried. So if you guys wanted maybe to look at Netanyahu's chart, let me know in the comments. So my prediction is that with this karmic return that Palestine is currently going through and will be exact on December 21st, and then next year shows if it survives, it will be in its Jupiter period. I have a lot of hope. So I'm here to give hope for Palestine. It's going through its chiropractic adjustment right now. It's literally going to have a death and a rebirth. How that rebirth looks, but I'm really hopeful. I'm going to stop there. I hope that you all found this interesting. Let me know in the comments. There's a lot of different avenues we could go. So let me know if you're interested in exploring any of those. Thank you all for watching. Free Palestine. Let's stay hopeful. Let's see what this karmic return brings. Namaste, everyone. Stay safe. So